From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Larry Kudlow. I don't know, we're trying to get a couple of people on the phone. We'll see how we do, but let me continue this discussion. I'm sorry we lost Mike Faulkner because of the time element. But, you know, this Democratic wish list of a guaranteed annual income where you're just paying people not to work, this has a long history in left-wing progressive politics and economics, but it's really a killer to the economy. And by the same token, I know Mr. Trump has raised the issue of taxing seniors on their Social Security benefits and taxing seniors who continue to work, like me, for example, and taxing them heavily on that income as well. I mean, if you really, my marginal tax rate on some of the earnings I make, including Social Security benefits, can be as high as 65%, including state and local. But, I mean, we should not be rewarding people with government subsidies or refundable tax credits, which means you just give them cash no matter if they have any income or not. We shouldn't do that. I mean, the participation rate, the labor force participation rate, and the employment to population ratios have been sinking for years because of all these welfare-type payments. And it weakens the overall economy. I mean, you want the economy to grow at 3% plus like it did for 50 years. I mean, just some numbers on this. Bear with me. Between 1947 and the year 2000, the American economy grew at 3.5% per year, and that's after inflation, real growth, 3.5% per year. And there were, 10 or 11 recessions, but the recoveries roared back. Right? That's what a free market economy does. Since 2000, we've grown less than 2% per year. We have had brief respites of that. George W. Bush had some 4% years. Donald Trump had some 4% years as they cut taxes. But on the whole, we continue to pay people not to work, and that slows down the economy. And I think it's very bad politics, and it's very bad economics. So keep your eye on that. All right, fortunately, we found Congressman Kevin McCarthy, former congressman, former Speaker of the House, and good friend. Kevin McCarthy, thanks for coming on a little earlier. We appreciate it very, very much. First of all, here's my question. I had Steve Daines on the TV show last night, Senator Steve Daines of Montana. He's running the Senate Campaign Committee, as you know. He was pretty optimistic, Kevin McCarthy, about picking up several Senate seats. I know we got one in West Virginia. He was pretty optimistic about Montana and Ohio and Nevada and Pennsylvania. What does Speaker Kevin McCarthy think about that?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. I love watching you and listening to you because it's an education I think all America needs to hear.
Thanks, Kevin.
But I tell you, working with you, the people don't realize your sacrifice for the contribution you've given to this country. So thank you, Larry, for what you have done in the economics. But Steve Daines has done an excellent job. First thing to do, you got to recruit. I've been through this job. I know what it takes. And first of all, he got somebody to retire in West Virginia. So that's a pickup. He only needs one more seat to capture the majority. Now, we know you got to get to 60 to really have the Senate. But you get to 51, you get to confirmations. You get reconciliation. We keep the House. I'm optimistic, too, in the Senate. I believe the Republicans have the majority in the Senate. The Senate is just the map itself. It's not everybody up. I'm optimistic in the House. Now, the last two cycles I know have been tough for Republicans, but not in the House. I'm fortunate to be one of the few leaders, I don't know if I may be the only one, that I've never lost seats. I've always won seats, even down times when we lost the White House, lost the Senate, lost the government. We still won. And I think it's easier to win seats in the House this cycle than the last two cycles. And let me tell you why, Larry. We had redistricting in North Carolina. So not only are we guaranteed to pick up 3, it's kind of like West Virginia. The Democrat members didn't even run again. We could pick up 4 in North Carolina. Blotkin, who we almost beat in Michigan, is now running for Senate. Tom Barrett going to pick up that seat. We got another one. Paul Young, who came close last time. The Democrat now retired. He's ahead in that seat. You look in Pennsylvania, the last cycle, we had a bad Republican candidate at the top of the ticket for governor, and it cost us. But I see 2 to 3 seats in Pennsylvania, and McCormick is the best candidate we could have at the top of the ticket. He's going to do a great job there. I look at Alaska, where 60% of the voters vote Republican, but they got this ranked system. They're going to have their primary coming up next week. We got the lieutenant governor. I think we straightened it out there. The thing that no one really pays attention to, when Pelosi became speaker and I became minority leader, in those 2 cycles, we've only won in California. We picked up 5 more seats in California. We've got 2 more to go. Now, I've been on the road. I was in Florida doing events. I was down doing at Ken Calvert. I was at the old Richard Nixon house in San Clemente. We were doing an event. What a great history there, where that's where Kissinger was asked to become Secretary of State in the swimming pool with Nixon. That's where Brezhnev came as leader of the Soviet Union, and Ronald Reagan was with him with President Nixon. But, then we also have picked me up in Ohio. I think we got a great chance to win that Senate. But we had a bad candidate in the last cycle to this Democrat there. We're going to pick up that seat. We're ahead. I see a lot of opportunities.
Bouncing back to Montana, Steve Daines, senator from Montana, saintly wife and I were married in Montana. She's from Montana. But you got this Sheehy running against John Tester. Sheehy's a decorated military veteran, so is his wife for that matter, and a good businessman. I don't know. Tester's trying to flip-flop his way back to the middle, but, he votes for all the Biden stuff. I think we got a shot at Montana.
Well, Montana's the whole election for the Senate, because we have West Virginia. They need 1 seat. Montana's our best opportunity, but it's also not a gimme.
Right.
You watch Tester.
Yep.
You saw him in Washington play that liberal Democrat when he would hold up an appointment for President Trump, but he played back home like he's working with them when we knew he was not. We watched him in committee vote with the Democrats every single time, but play he's something else back home. He's a liberal Democrat. But Tim Sheehy, if you had to sit back and say, who would I like to be a statesman? Who would I want to represent? Well, I want someone that knows leadership, that's been in the military. But think about being in the type of that he served, the Navy SEAL and others. But I want somebody to know economics, right? Larry Kudlow, that's going to be one of the most important things you're going to want, right? Just to understand that. But as a businessman, it wasn't just worked for somebody. He created something. So when you create a business, an entrepreneur, at age 20 was the first company I ever created. And I never created a big company, but it's a small deli. And there's 3 lessons I learned, Larry. The first to work, the last to leave, and the last to be paid. And I will tell you, that was the best MBA, better than the MBA I got later, of understanding from regulations, from paying taxes, from what something cost in sales and marketing, everything wrapped up into one. Well, he did it very successful. Now, he could have easily gone, done his time, and go retire with his wife. But that's not, because they got that servant heart. They believe in something bigger than themselves. And just to put yourself on the line to even run for office, knowing they're going to say things about you that aren't true, that you're going to have to stand up and make a battle for the nation, this guy is remarkable. And that's why I am so optimistic about Republicans winning, because of the type of candidate that Steve Daines actually helped recruit.
He's done a good job.
At Ameris Bank, we're with you. We asked our team what that means to them.
We have a partnership.
We're here for the long haul.
Personally, commercially, corporately.
We're with you. We're with you.
We're with you.
Learn what it means for you at amerisbank.com/withyou. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
So, former Speaker McCarthy, how's our friend Donald Trump doing? What do you think? Is he back on message?
I think he is getting there. I've watched him, and you got to understand, you've watched what he's gone through, and I can't imagine any other person. And I've never seen, and you've been around politics a little longer than I, in the history of America, in the last 10 weeks, how much has changed, right? Week after week. It's just barely been a little more than a month where he was almost killed. Think about going through that. Think about putting the entire justice system against him just to try to make him not run. Have to go through a primary where people are all running, but make the case. It makes you stronger. And then a sitting president, and you did so well in a debate that he decided not to run, and they select somebody that's never even gone through a political process, and it's a new race. But look, Kamala Harris is not ahead. I believe this entire race hinges with Pennsylvania and Georgia. I still talk to the president on a very regular basis, and I watched how, and you've seen him so many times when we'd be in the Oval Office and others, he understands what the American public's going through. He understands what regulation means, but he understands the struggle. And I've never seen somebody work as hard as him and with sacrifice. But you see the damage in the last 4 years. Inflation is the greatest damage any country can do to their citizens because it harms every single person, but it harms those who are the weakest that's trying to get up, and it happens every day in the grocery store. He's watched from the energy to unshackle the benefit that God has given America, but it's not just what's given America. It makes the world a safer place, but it makes it from environmentally sound. Like if we just replace American natural gas with Russian natural gas in Europe to our allies, in 1 year, we lower CO2 emissions by 218 million tons, right? And he just actually brings out the best in the people and the economy.
I think I thought his interview with Elon Musk, which a lot of people listen to, and I also, Kevin McCarthy, I thought his speech in Asheville, North Carolina, it had a lot of good economic content. It really was, kind of 95% content, 5% some other things. But, he is who he is, and he's going to do what he's going to do. I'm not trying to change the guy. But,
to entertain a little.
I know. And so I don't, it doesn't bother me, and it bothers some people, whatever. But the point is, strong economic content, borders, fires overseas. I thought the press conference he had, all right, he maybe went on a little long, but still, he's standing up, right? No teleprompter, hardly any notes at all for like 90 minutes. I mean, very few politicians can do that, and neither Joe Biden nor Kamala Harris can do that. And Trump did it. And I think people look at that and they go, hey, this guy knows something, warts and all, he's got a sense of humor. He's from Queens, New York, but he knows stuff, and he just spits it out. So I was impressed. I thought it was a pretty good week for him.
I think he's been turning things around.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think he's going on getting every single cylinder just right, but you're in the middle of the Democrats going to have the convention. So I think he's doing it right. And look, it's not the way you and I would do it, but we probably couldn't win president. I think a little of that personality is fabulous. But I keep talking to him. 3 major factors, and he knows it. I said, have 3 debates with her. Have one about the economy. And just show it. She's the deciding factor that brought us inflation. She wasn't the senator and one of the many who voted for it. She was the president of the Senate that broke the tie that brought us inflation.
Yeah.
Do one on the border. We know there's no one better on the border.
Kevin, can you hang on? I don't mean to interrupt.
Yes.
You're on a roll. Can you just hang on? Let me take commercial break, and then you come back after the break.
Hey, that's how you pay for it and make money always.
You got a couple more minutes. I know you're on a roll. It's a great insight. Hang on. Just hang on. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Folks, we're talking to former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, who's a great friend from California, and you can hear his optimism. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back with Mr. McCarthy.
Larry Kudlow. Now, back to the Larry Kudlow Show.
We are talking some more with former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy of California. Kevin, thank you for waiting around. I wanted to ask you, with all this swirling around, and you saw Kamala's awful economic program yesterday, Now we go into the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. And two things. One is there's going to be a lot of problems outside the hall with these demonstrators, but there also, I think, going to be problems inside the hall. No matter how much they try to cleanse the party, you're going to get a lot of speakers who are, well, shall we say, lefty progressives. I was going to say crazy people, but just let's say, very far left progressives. The Elizabeth Warren types, the Bernie Sanders types, they're going to give their vision of the world. And I don't think viewers are much going to like that vision. But what are you expecting for this big convention?
Well, a couple things you're going to see. The Democrats are going to be relieved they don't have Joe Biden. And that's going to mask over. Okay, that's going to be the makeup over everything else. But the thing that's going to be the misnomer, they're going to act happy because they don't have him. And the reason why they're happy, because he wasn't just losing, he was cratering so much that they were guaranteed to lose everything with astronomical numbers. So they're happy that's not there. But they're not going to be overly excited that it's Kamala. They're going to act like they are, but they're going to be like the schoolgirls. They're going to be mean girls in there. Because remember, she's never gone through one primary to become president of the United States. So you're going to have the jealousy of the others. You hit it right on the head, Larry. You're right. The progressives in this party, the socialist progressive wing, is continuing to take over the Democratic Party. And then they've got their own internal fights for Gaza and everything else. So they're going to act like they're happy, but they're all going to be fighting to say they should have been the person. If you didn't have to go through a primary and earn something, it's just like anything else in life, right? When you listen to her, you would think you're in Venezuela. You would think you're back in time in the Soviet Union, that you're going to put price controls on food. You're creating bread lines, right? I mean, it's the thought behind it. So they're going to think she didn't earn it. Well, if nobody earns it, I should do it because my far left opinion is better than hers. But this is the unique thing. No matter how socialist you think that voice is, from whatever anybody says, remember this: Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, anything else. Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the Senate while you had Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. But I think behind the scenes, behind the curtain, you're going to see a lot of bickering in the back.
Well, and I think a lot of these people, look, I don't know how they're going to cleanse the speakers list, but even, take Bernie Sanders, take Elizabeth Warren. These are not people that the public wants to be leaders, presidents. They're extremists. They may win their states. Okay, that's the way it works. Far blue states, deep blue states. But they're still out there. They're still out there. And I think that's a problem. And then outside the hall, Kevin McCarthy, I think they're going to have a big – if all these crazy groups show up and they're protesting and whatnot, that's a problem, and that's going to be on her. It's going to be on Kamala. No matter what she says, it's going to be on her. And in other words, I think people are telling me that she's going to peak in the next week after the convention. I don't know. The convention may not help her one bit.
No, I don't see it helping a lot. It's kind of like her picking of Tim Walz. How much does that help?
Yeah,
right. It's only held her back.
Right.
And every time she dwells into policy, does that help her? No, she drops a little further. Look, for all your listeners, think of this. The press is going to spin everything they can for her. They spin like the polls are great. She's not the lead. And they think like it's hurt President Trump. His numbers have actually gone up in the polls they say that is so great for her. Remember this. When Joe Biden won, he only won by 48,918 votes, and his favorability was plus 10. When Hillary Clinton lost, she has better polling than Kamala Harris today. Joe Biden had better polling than Kamala Harris today. But let me give you something else. Donald Trump has better polling today than when he beat Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
And when it was 48,918 votes, there's going to be greater protesters than that. Everything is in Democrats' head is this 1968 and we're back in Chicago and we're fighting among ourselves and it's about a war in another country. They're going to try to mask over that and they're going to try to put her up. And the first time she finally has to, after this convention, answer a question without a teleprompter, she will stumble. Yeah. And this is that, okay, we're all on President Trump, but this guy, less than a month ago, he almost was assassinated, right? Then the person he'd been running against for the last 6 years pulls out. So was he not 100%? But he's going to get there, and it's going to be stronger, and she's going to get weaker. And we're going to peak in November.
Former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, thank you ever so much for your wisdom. We really, really appreciate it. Folks, I'm going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to do some stock market work.